today we had adding and subtracting rational expressions in section 14.4. Think adding and subtracting fractions. So remember how you would get a common denominator to add fractions, and that you often are looking for the least common denominator. So keep that in the back of your mind. This section is as much about remembering how fractions work as anything else. So, number one, what we notice about the first question is we already have a common denominator. So if you have something with common denominator, yay, then we can just focus on adding the numerators. So the division bar implies parentheses. This is especially important for this negative sign because that should be distributed. So let's write out what this means. Everything is over x minus 3. The first term was positive, so it's x plus 2. And then we have this negative distributed on negative 1, we can say. That's distributed, so we end up with negative 6x minus 7. Take your time on that step to not lose the negative sign. Then we're looking at our numerator and combining like terms. And saying I have an x and a negative 6x. So those combine to give me negative 5x. Then I have a positive 2 and a negative 7 combined to give me negative 5, all over x minus 3. And we might, to be safe, factor out that negative 5. This would give me x plus 1 over x minus 3. Nothing simplifies, so this is my answer. Number 2. We do not have a common denominator, so we need to look for that first. So I'm asking myself, what expression does both 5x and 6y divide into? So I need an x, I need a y, and then when pairing 5 and 6, I might think about multiples of 6 and say 6, 12. Okay, I need to go all the way out to 30. 6 times 5 is 30. That's the first multiple of 6 that 5 will divide into. So that's my common denominator. And what do I need to multiply by in order to get that? So the first term, 5 times 6 gives me 30, and x times y gives me xy. And then I need the same multiple on top. For the second term, 6 times 5 gives me 30, and y times x gives me 6xy. So I'm comparing my denominator to my common, and saying, what do I need to multiply by? Or if you want to say you're taking the 30xy divided by 6y, it gives me 5x. And then I multiply the top by this as well. So we get 6y times y gives us 6y squared. 5x times x gives me 5x squared. And 5x times negative 4 gives me negative 20x. That there's no common factor I can pull out. So this is my answer. Couple more questions of a little bit more work when we can use our factoring in order to figure out the common denominators. So when we look at denominators, we're looking at what multiplies to get there. So let's factor these. My first step is taking the x squared minus 9 and factoring it. So this is x times x. 9 is 3 times 3. 1 positive, 1 negative. Then the middle terms will cancel. So I'm going to erase my denominator and replace it with x plus 3, x minus 3. Then I have my common denominator. Oops, I'm going to need some space here. So common denominator of x plus 3 times x minus 3. So I ask myself, what do I need to multiply by? I need to multiply by x minus 3. So that's my equivalent fraction creation. Now I can write what I've ended up with. So I get 2x squared because that piece I didn't need to multiply by anything. Then I have negative 1 times x, don't lose the negative. And I have negative 1 times negative 3, so that would be positive 3. Then I need to ask myself, does that numerator factor? So 2x squared minus x plus 3. Here's where I need to be careful. Does this factor? Can I get any simplification? And if it seems easier to you, your real question is either one of these a factor? Can I factor it to x plus 3 or x minus 3? If neither of those works, then it doesn't matter. So why don't we look at it that way? X plus 3 or x minus 3, does it work? So what would it have to be? X plus 3, if I want to get 2x squared, I need 2x. If I want to get 3, I would need 1. And it would have to be positive since this first one is positive and this is positive. So does this work? So I get 2x squared plus x plus 6x plus 3. This gives me 7x. No, because I need negative x. So erasing that. Looking at x minus 3. So, I need a 2x, x times 2x. And negative 3 times, it would be negative 1. Does this work? So I get 2x squared minus x minus 6x plus 3. These give me negative 7x. No, that doesn't work. So neither of those factors work. So that means I have my final answer, no simplification. If you can divide out a factor, then you would cancel it out to simplify. So let's look at one more question. This is pulling together. You can feel your brain expanding as it pulls together a lot of skills we've been working on. So I have this mess. I want to add it together. I need a common denominator. I need to tell whether I have what the factors are. So my first step is to try to factor. X squared minus 8x plus 15. X times x will give me x squared. 3 times 5 will give me 15. Other options, if that didn't work, would be, 1 and 15. So then I'm reasoning, I have a positive, so I need the same signs. I have a negative, so that needs to be a negative sign. So I have negative and negative. Does that work? I get negative 5x minus 3x equals negative 8x. That works. So I can replace this with x minus 3, x minus 5. And that is my common denominator. So I need to multiply this first. 1 times x minus 3. And a second one I don't need to multiply by. What do I get then? Negative 4 times x and negative 4 times negative 3. So I get negative 4x, positive 12. Then we had a plus, so we're keeping the same sign here. So we would have 7x minus 27. Okay, we got our common denominator, combined our numerators, and now we could simplify. So the numerator, I'm combining like terms. Negative 4x plus 7x gives me 3x. 12 minus 27 is negative 15. Like the last one, we want to take out if we have a common factor. So this is 3 times x minus 5. And then we have this matching that gives us 1. So we have 3 over x minus 3 as our final answer. All right, don't rush on these. Watch for your positive and negative signs. Convince yourself of the sense that you're making at each step, why you're doing it, and enjoy the challenge.